1963, but I did not meet her until 1970 after her parents had moved back to the U.S. So I did not experience her childhood with Lily. At about 7, she was a cute and smart and charming little kid. 2 years later, my sister Frances, Lydia's mother, gave my wife and I a lovely small painting of Lydia as a wedding gift. It is one of my most precious possessions. When I first saw it, I noticed that Lydia had very serious eyes. Looking at it the other day, and through the lens of her death, I saw a sadness in those eyes that I had not noticed at first. Across the decades, Lydia and I were in and out of each other's lives. We lived 1,000 miles and more away from each other. But by phone and by my occasional visits to the East, we kept in contact. With time, I became increasingly aware of the serious struggles she had with her inner demons. But almost always, I saw the cheerful face of a kind and caring person who tried to take care of her friends. But there was more to it than that, and I am profoundly sorry that I could do so little to help her get beyond her problems. She was a lovely person.
Anyone else? Good.
I kind of related at the RP, just this new phase, and I was in and out. I was so busy with going to state or something. And then it was, when I think about what I really got to know, it was the volunteer recognition thing 2 years ago. Just stood at the podium and said, what's wrong? She kind of talked with her hands a little bit. And the story was like when I would tell, it was here and there and there and there. And I felt good to know that. And Peter was also working on a project with me at the time, and he knew her a lot better than me. And he kind of pointed out that there's more to her than meets the eye initially. And so I paid attention to that, and maybe that was even before the volunteer recognition. The thing that stuck out for me a couple of weeks ago was I was emailing my son about what was going on in our community. Was the minute I told Lydia that I was going to Boston for medical treatment. She said, oh, I have a friend that lives there. We can stay there overnight if you need to stay overnight for your treatments. And we did. We stayed at this a couple times. And you know, I just thought of something this morning, and here, today, whatever, about people sleeping on her couch, and Lori offered us her room, you know, like she was a good-sized bed, it would fit 2 people fine, and Lydia was worried because she maybe thrashes in the night or, you know, tosses and turns, and she didn't want to hurt me because I was in this delicate condition. And so she slept on Lori's couch that night. And I just think about that day in the infusion room, and she's asking the nurse, do we need to go get a wheelchair? Can you walk now? And she ran down to the pharmacy and got the pills I needed. And the total care, just an echo of what's already been said here so far.
Thank you, Julie. You know, it'd be helpful if people just introduce who they are when they're sharing.
So I'm Ted. I actually was graced by having Lydia come into my life through John and Peter, actually. And then the Recover Project, and I was a 3-timer on her couch, and the M&Ms, man, that was like 3 or 4 times a week, the M&M thing. So that's where I met Vincent for the first time, and, you know, got to hear plenty of Lori's stories, and, you know, Gary came into my life that way. And I stand here and I look in amazement because I'm going to say probably half of the people that I see in this room that I know, I think were introduced to me by Lydia at the Recover Project. The amazing thing about Lydia was, if you truly knew her, you could tell when she was having a bad day. She would put that completely aside and she would say to me, how are your children? How are things going in your life? This, that, and the other. She didn't want to talk about what was going on with her. It took time and a lot of effort for her to trust you enough to want to say those things. So my fondest memory of Lydia was a few years ago. I was living on her couch for my 3rd time, and it was her birthday. And I said, what do you want to do for her birthday? She goes, what do you mean? I said, what do you want to do for your birthday? Anything you want. I was working at the time, and I hadn't run out of money for Haagen-Dazs at that point in time, so it was her birthday. And let me tell you, rent at Lydia's was steep. Between junk food and ice cream, I could have lived in the Taj Mahal or something. Well, she wanted the strangest thing that I'd ever seen in my entire life. Not that I don't love the man, and I thought that it was, great, but she wanted the Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist movies for her birthday. And Chinese food, which are all attainable by me. So I went down to the local video store and I bought the movies, and we got the Chinese food and we ate. Little did I know for the next 3 months that I'd be tortured by those videos. Not only would we be watching them time and time again at the house, but we'd be somewhere and she would come out with one of the statements that one of the puppets would make. And you'd either be like offended because she said it in the place that we were at, or you'd be laughing so hard that you were going to pee your pants. It was one extreme or the other with Lydia. One of my favorite things that she would do is when she'd sit at the receptionist desk and we'd all be talking about something going on in the world and so on and so forth, and she'd shout out, hey, does anybody know who the 32nd president of the United States was? Famous for it, absolutely famous for it. The biggest thing that Lydia gave me on a daily basis when I struggled was hope. She always told me, just keep doing the right thing and it's going to be okay. She would always tell me, you're doing the right thing. And when I wasn't, she would tell you. All I can say at this point in time is it was an absolute blessing knowing her. I'm never going to look at the Recover Project the same way and walk through that door and not see that woman sitting behind that desk. I go there and I feel empty when I don't walk through that door now. Maybe we can come up with somebody else who can sit in that seat, but that seat will never be the same to most of the people in this room. And I'm going to miss her every single day. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. Kathy?
Kathy, the most that I got from this woman is she would have this certain sadness about certain things in her life, but she never ever forgot what was going on in my life. She'd always ask me about my son, kind of like what Ted, touch base. She always jumped right into service. She asked me about all the different things that we talked about, and it was just amazing that sometimes I would have a gap when I would see her, and she would remember everything, that was going on in my life and making sure that I was okay, and she always put other people before herself. And so like when you walk through the door at the RP, or if I asked her if she wanted to join me somewhere, or if she needed a ride somewhere, it's kind of like a missing gap in there. And so I'm just really blessed to have a beautiful woman like that no matter what was going on in her life, that she always remembered what was going on with mine and made sure that I was okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Lydia? Did you want to share your poem?
Well, my daughter wrote a poem, but I don't know if I do want to share it.
Okay.
Maybe I'll leave it so that, I don't think I can do credit to it. I'll leave it so that people can read it. My name's Lydia Heineman, and I've known Lydia since 1964. I was living in Italy, and her parents, Fran and Greg, were friends of my former husband and myself. And I was pregnant with my second child. There were 2 more to come after that when I met Lydia. And she was sitting on her parents' bed eating bread and jam. And she looked up at me with these great big brown eyes, and little hands were gesturing, filled with jam all over her face too, and the bread was crumbled and all around, and she said, "Nams," which was her word for jam. And we never forgot this wonderful that we had, and that linked us together. Plus the fact that her name is Lydia May and mine's Mary Lydia, so we kind of had that nice connection. connection. She was extraordinarily giving. At that time, she was 18 months old. When Leah was born, she caressed her. As the children came along, she'd help them walk. She was ready to take their hand, to take a spoon and feed them. If they couldn't pronounce a word, patiently to sit there and, enjoy what they were saying and laugh with them, but also try to get them to do it right. She was just a lovely, lovely giving child. It was with her. And then there's one other thing I'd like to say. I did write something if anyone's interested in reading it. I just can't read it myself. The other thing was her outrageous sense of humor. She was visiting my former husband in Rome, in Italy. He lives there, in 1998. And John looked at her and he said, "Well, Lydia, what did Greg say when you told him you'd married a prisoner?" And she put both hands on either side of her temples, pulled her ear, tucked her head into her lap. And it was just the perfect sight. It was just perfect because she was expressing Greg's frustration and upset, but also she was kind of, now I got you. So those are two wonderful things. She was always generous to me. Another thing my daughter was remembering, she'd say, "Will you stop?" Whenever, that was a characteristic phrase all the time, from her 20s on, where you want to be insisting on carrying something, doing laundry for her, or paying a bill, whatever it is that you want to do. She would have none of it. "Will you stop?" she said. Yes, I'll close with that. I do believe she was an angelic spirit.
Thank you. Brian.
Hi, my name is Brian. Lydia gave me hope. I came up here in 2013. I met her at the recovery project. And I was homeless in the whole 9 yards. She was always there. She always had a kind word, and she made me smile. And I don't smile too often. Basically, she said, "I'm not scared of you, and you ain't no tough guy." She always told me, and that made me volunteer for the soup kitchen and going to volunteer for the recovery project. She'll be very missed, and she has a place in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
I knew Lydia mostly through everybody else. I mean, I had the pleasure of being greeted and with her smile and her warmth and her sunshine when I walked in the door. But what she gave to other people was like she gave hope and she saved people. So in terms of karma, she's got it covered. And she reminds me of, every spring when the leaves come out, everything is gray, and then suddenly you wake up one day and it's like the whole world is green. That's what she reminded me of. And the poem that I think of when I think of that, and now I will think of her, is Robert Frost, "Nothing Gold Can Stay." Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf so flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so seed Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down today, nothing gold can stay. And Lydia was gold, she was precious, and she will be remembered by anybody who met her. And I think the universe just has another plan for her. We're going to have to just hold it in our hearts and keep on doing bigger and better things.
Heather.
I'm Heather. I knew Lydia through the Recover Project, and I know she came in 2012, but I don't know exactly when. But I was pregnant when she came into our community, and she'd always ask me about my pregnancy. And I had I have two other children, and every time they came into the Recover Project, she'd sit with them and color with them, and when I had my daughter, she was really scared to hold her. I can't hold her. She's too little. I don't want to break her. And there was one day where I got up and had to go to the bathroom and didn't want to take McKenna with me, and she held her. And I'm pretty sure I have a picture of her holding her. I don't know where, but I'm pretty sure I have one. And the last conversation I had with Lydia was the Friday before her passing, and McKenna was at the Recover Project with me. And she's talking, you know, she's 2.5 now. And Lydia looked at me and she said, Heather, I remember when I was too scared to hold her because she was so little and so fragile, and like, look at her now. You know, I'm like, the Recover Project just isn't the same without her. Like, I've had my fair share of bad days, and like, I'd walk in and she's always smiling and she's always bright, and like, she's just not there. But I think we're gonna keep her picture out there, right?
For a while. And nobody's gonna sit in that chair either, huh?
Well, I am.
Do we have enough money for chocolate?
So I just love and miss Lydia, and then, you know, it's just not gonna be the same without her, but.
So it's 3:30, and we were gonna end at 3:30, but I think we'll go about 8 more minutes, okay? So people can keep that in mind when they want to share. It's like 8 hands up, so keep it short. Okay, and so we'll start with John.
Hi everybody, my name is John. And just to claim my sofa, I've been there too. Lydia, Peter, Gary, and myself have known each other almost 4 years now. And we've stayed friends all that time, and I think that's pretty special considering the way we met. Lydia's legacy to me is going to be, I need to open my heart a little wider and the door into my life a little bit more, because it's going to take a lot of means to fill that gap that she's been so good to give to so many people over time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes. Hi.
Hi, my name is Kristen Brookhine, and I met Lydia at Williston, Northampton. We were at the boarding school for 3 years together, and she was my best friend there. She was one of my only friends there, and she was always available whenever I was down, which I was down a lot there because it was my first time away from home. And she was always there with an ear to listen and a shoulder to cry on. And after we graduated, we lost touch, and I reconnected with her about 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm glad that I did. I visited her up here in Greenfield, and she came down to stay with my husband and I in Hartford. She stayed overnight, and she brought DVDs with her. Jeff Dunn.
Sorry.
And I sat on our king-size bed eating popcorn and, you know, junk food and drinking sodas and just laughing our asses off. You know, my husband and I recently moved. We'd made plans for Lydia to come down and visit us. And, you know, now it's too late. But I love you, Lydia, and I will miss you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Kim. And I'm family to Leela. I just want to thank you, Leela, for being there whenever I needed you. I would call you, we would talk 4 times a week, and I'm going to miss those calls. I'm very grateful I went to Shelburne Falls with her this year. We had a wonderful time, and again, she's everyone's best friend. And I just want, you're her boss. I remember she would get in trouble all the time at work and say, oh, I'm going to get fired today. I just know it. And She loved you very much. I mean, I heard about Troy, Peter, and Laura, so many people that she truly loved. She loved working for you. She knew you loved her. I just want to mention that. So. And she was always getting in trouble. That's Leila.
Thank you for that, thank you.
Hi, I'm Peggy. And Lydia and I were co-workers, both of us as peer coordinators. We got the job at the same time, and we were a great team. And I think what I'm going to take with me is the fact that she not only reached out to me, but she reached out to my grandchildren and was so good to them. My granddaughter told me this morning that she didn't want to be here today because she wanted to remember the times she had with Lydia. And I didn't force her to come because she remembers going to the movie theater a few times with Lydia. And then Lydia spending all kinds of quarters on her so that she could win stuffed animals in the claw. She said, I gave her $10. And she used every quarter of that $10. And then some, probably. And I know that Shayla, Brandon, and I will miss her so much. And I just want everybody to know that, yeah, like you said, Kim, she is everybody's best friend. And I'm going to miss you, Lydia.